Okay, here's the DVD Q&A live stream. It's like an hour, 20 minutes, but the first 11 minutes are nothing. And we can make it even shorter by doing 1.25x speed. So how about that? So this happened just today.
Before we get started, I also just want to say thank you to the mods in chat. Now, right off the bat, we have some news and announcements. We're going to talk about the thing that's already popping up in chat from time to time. Patrick, do you want to talk to us about Circle of Healing?
I would love to talk to you about Circle of Healing.
Okay, so this is actually the only thing in the Q&A that's like finished, like that they like give actual information on, because a lot of the questions are like, well, you'll see. But the Circle of Healing change is interesting.
It's getting a nerf in the next patch. That's mostly what I have to talk about. So, hey, look, numbers on the screen. That's great. Now I don't need to remember them. Bumping it down at tier 3 from 100% down to 75%. Plan is to keep looking at how this performs with these reduced values, and we are absolutely willing to do it again if we deem it worthy.
So, Circle of Healing getting nerfed from 90, 95, 100% bonus to healing speeds to 65, 70, 75. I think this doesn't fix anything. They're still gonna have a 75% bonus. That's extremely fast. That's very fast. So I mean, it'll be slowed down a little bit. I think more of what people would want, some sort of cooldown after the boon gets snuffed, or maybe the killer can destroy the boon totem so they can't use it over and over again. Just something more like that, and that's more of like a boon change overall. I am going to maintain that Shadow Step is a better boon perk than Circle of Healing, but Circle of Healing gets whined about a lot more, so it's the one that's getting targeted here. But my opinion is that they're going to have to, as you said, another pass through on this, I think.
Awesome. Already answered my question. I don't even have to ask if it's not enough. So with that said, we also have
it's not enough.
Great rewards
in my opinion
for next month. Justin, do you want to say a couple things?
So
about
that's
that?
coming up.
Sure. So I'm pretty excited that we're actually finally getting around to this, because I know when we launched with the grade rewards, they were a little lower than I think what a lot of players were expecting. I think you were able to get a total of 500,000 BP if you got the highest grade for both roles. So what we were waiting for is just evaluate, see how many players are actually getting there. What the actual progression
down a little bit. Sorry.
data was looking like, just to make sure that it's actually worth it. So I think these new values that we've actually come up with are going to be much more rewarding for players, and we're also.
So this was actually publicly shown before the Q&A. You get 1 million per roll now for Iridescent 1, which is good. I'm glad that they did this. This is a great change. Great change.
So giving you more of an incentive to, go up from one part of a grade to another. So like, let's say if you're in Ash 4, you're not going to be stuck with the same reward for all of Ash. You're going to go up.
So like Silver 4 is what currently is Iridescent 1. So it's actually a big bump.
Just reaching
Iridescent
cool. 1 on any roll is going to get you 1 million BP. So if you get Iridescent 1 on both, I mean, it's 2 million BP you could be getting per month. I think it's pretty damn cool. So I want to just go. It's a lot. I think it's really cool to be investing into your characters, because I know we always need BP for characters, and that's why we're also trying to give out a lot more, to however we can, through promo codes, through events.
Okay, great. Let's get into the first queue.
We have no plans to make Decisive Strike base kit.
Okay. People are definitely going to pick that apart, but you know what? Good enough.
What did he just say? Because I missed this live.
They ask, will there ever be base kit borrow time or Decisive Strike to address tunneling and camping?
We have no plans to make Decisive Strike base kit.
Okay.
Okay. I noticed you only mentioned Decisive Strike there. Do we have anything at all planned for base kit?
We have no plans to make Decisive Strike base kit.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't see this part live. That's really funny.
Okay. People are definitely going to pick that apart, but you know what? Good enough.
Pick apart? Pick apart? There's nothing to pick apart.
So the next question comes from MX Zan, who asks, when's Switch cross progression coming?
So I think this one's definitely popping up a lot, so it's good that we can be addressing it. So we put out a statement a few months ago, but
is anyone interested in this? I'm going to skip it.
Switching gears, we have a question from the King, who asks, will Boon Totems be getting any changes? I can't read.
Sorry, words are hard, buddy. Yeah, Boon Totems and their general mechanics aren't going to see any sweeping changes anytime soon. They're generally working as intended. They don't show, any significant signs of being overpowered or a problem. Again, overall. That said, I already talked about, Circle of Healing, right? And in that same vein, we are looking at each individual boon perk and, considering their individual balance. But boons, the overall system, it's not going to see any major changes anytime soon.
So I feel like, can I call myself a killer main? I've been playing like 80-20 killer to survivor lately for like the past 2 months. I think I can say killer main right now. As opposed to like a lot of other killer mains, I don't really have much of a problem with Boon Totems, frankly. Like, they're annoying. There's a lot of annoying survivor perks in the game. So I'm okay with them not getting any changes. But I do think that people will want that. Like I said earlier, like after they're snuffed, if the boon perks could just go on cooldown, that would be plenty. You know what I mean? That basically just makes them less annoying. You know what I mean? Or alternatively, this is more of like a less fun change. The killer can stomp the totem and destroy it when they're getting rid of the boon totem. So I don't know. I don't really see any reason not to do those changes, frankly. But all right.
Yeah. So basically, keep an eye on them. But right now, nothing's planned for that. Are there plans to fix the issue of dead hard validation having adverse effects on certain killers' powers?
Yeah, I mean, this is something we have to look at on a case-by-case basis with each power, so it's a little bit slow going. They're all on our radar, though. We are listening to what you guys are saying and calling these issues out. Very specifically, I can say things like the Blight's Rush attack and the Nemesis Tentacle attack and how those interface with Dead Hard. It's not as good as we want it to be, so we're looking at those individually, but yeah, case-by-case basis for stuff like that. Okay.
Dead hard validation, I would say, is one of the biggest issues with playing killer right now, and it's not that. It's not a huge deal, but it's really annoying, especially when you hit them with your power. Like I've had it happen with Hunter's Hatchets, Nemesis Tentacle, like you said, Blight hits, where like you hit them. And then, like, a beat passes, and then you see the dead hard, and it's like, that was really late. That seems like it's really, really safe, the validation. But then I play Survivor, and anytime, like, half the time whenever I dead hard, the killer hits me anyway, so I don't know.
Hex Ruin was reworked because most killers used it in almost every match. Will dead hard be reworked?
Yes, we are looking at Dead Hard, right? It's a particularly tricky one because some of the friction with this perk comes from the design and some of it comes from the network and the technical implementation. Anytime you have something that's extremely time sensitive, I can't speak either, in an online game, like reacting and dodging a hit, you end up with something that can be negatively impacted by latency, network conditions, stuff like that. So we need to come at Dead Hard from both the design side and from the technical side, but that also means it's going to take a while to kind of unravel it and get it to a place that everybody is happy with.
I actually like 100% understand this. It seems like Dead Hard giving you, iframes for like such a short amount of time. That feels, with like you said, latency and stuff. That feels like that'd be tough to balance. So I'm just glad to hear that they're still looking at it and it's not just like a Dead Hard's perfect now, because it's not. I
already seen some people happy in chat about that. I guess the other question is, what aspect of Dead Hard are we really thinking about changing? Are we thinking about changing the way people use it for distance, or are we thinking more about the way people use it to dodge a hit?
Yeah, on the technical side, we're definitely looking at the hit dodging, how that functions, how the players experience it, how you get feedback, right? How you know that hit got dodged, stuff like that. There's already some changes coming, I believe, in the upcoming patch, touching on the validation of it. It was in the PTB. From a game design side, we're definitely looking at it specifically in regards to the speed boost and how that can activate regardless of you dodging a hit. It gives it a little bit too much utility beyond what we want Dead Hard to do. So that's another aspect. I don't have anything specific to say about what we're doing there, but those are like the high-level aspects that we're investigating right now.
They're investigating dead harding for distance. Like, dead harding for distance, for anyone that doesn't know, is like you just use dead hard when the killer's not around or not close by or not trying to hit you, and you just use it to get somewhere faster. I don't really think that needs to be changed, frankly, but all right.
All right, exciting stuff. Next question comes from Ots Darva, who asks, streamer mode, perk loadouts.
I'm sorry. Patrick's face when Peanut said Ots Darva. Anyway, all right. Ots, let's see the question.
More settings in custom games. Can we expect these quality of life changes anytime soon?
So some of these are definitely coming sooner than later. I don't want to give too much hope on when, but like we're looking at a laundry list of these and some similar quality of life features for the future, and should have more to reveal in the near to mid future, I'll say.
Yeah, absolutely. So Chris asks, what happened
I guess that question was answered. Okay.
to the early game mechanic you announced in the 4th anniversary stream?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this one last time we were on a Q&A, but I'll repeat it so everybody gets to know. It's not a secret. The short answer is that it's not going to happen. We're not doing it. The longer answer, which I will still keep relatively brief, is that we talked about adding an additional mechanic to the start of the game, but after discussions internally with the design team and going through a few prototypes, there wasn't any direct improvements to the game. It actually made it worse. People weren't having fun. It was frustrating. So we kind of scrapped the idea. It wasn't a good idea based off of our playtest. That said, some of those ideas have been recycled into other prototypes, and those are seeing some traction. So there will be something. There's more. We are prototyping more things, just not an early game scenario like people have been talking about.
All right. I'm actually not really sure what he's talking about. I think they're talking about something that it was like an idea that Scott Jund originally had, I think, of you can have like an early game like setup phase. And basically it was designed to allow the killer to set up. If you're playing like Trapper or Myers, Hag, I guess. You have time to like set up and stuff before the game begins, so you don't have to just immediately be going after them on generators. I thought that's what maybe what they were talking about. I don't know, but regardless, it's not happening. So this is actually one of the few things in the Q&A that we get a clear answer on. So I'll take it.
Yeah, the sad reality to sharing things sooner like that is that sometimes they don't make the cut. So it's a big part of the reason why we don't give ETAs super early on. Next question comes from Jessica Ravane, who asks, would it be possible to change the SBMM system to be more skill-based and not based on kills and escapes?
So, I did see this part live. Let's talk about the answer.
I know you could talk about this all day, so I'm going to cut you off if it goes too long.
Yeah, I've got some notes here, but I'm desperately trying to keep it brief. So I'll please understand I am simplifying some things here. Don't read too much into every detail I'm saying. I'm trying to keep this brief. But there's a common misconception that by using just kills and escapes to adjust your MMR, it's ignoring skill in the game.
I'm just going to let that settle a little bit because I am one of the people that's been saying that. And I think a lot of other people agree. But let's hear Patrick's rationale.
This isn't the truth, though. This is false. Kills and escapes are proxies for skill, in that skilled play inherently leads to kills or escapes. Think about...
The thing is, he's right some of the time. I played this game like enough to know there's been plenty of games where I've escaped when I haven't deserved it. There's plenty of games when I've gotten a 4K and didn't deserve it. There's plenty of games where I got a 0K and didn't deserve it. Or where I got killed and I didn't deserve it. There's been games when I run the killer for 5 gens. Literally, I have them on YouTube. I have proof. There have been games where I've run the killer for 5 gens, get put on a hook at the end, and die. And don't have a chance. I don't think that these experiences are really as much of an exception as he's portraying them as. So I think one of the annoying things about Dead by Daylight, one of the great things about Dead by Daylight, but also one of the annoying things about Dead by Daylight is that it's very luck-based. And I think here they're downplaying the luck factor a little too much in kills and escapes. And that's one of the reasons why people are against the idea of kills and escapes being the sole deciding factor for MMR is because they're very luck-based. A lot of the time, when you play, like, yeah, if you deserve the 4K. If you're playing killer and you're just stomping on some bad survivors, you deserve that 4K, right? If you're on a great survivor team and the killer's trash and you all escape, you deserve those escapes. But there's a lot of space in between where things happen undeservedly. So I just wish that he had acknowledged that. But instead he has a very staunch, that's not true, that's false narrative, and I take a little bit of an issue with it.
About sports, and I'll use hockey as an example because I'm Canadian. You wouldn't say they only count wins when placing teams in the standings, but they should also count shots on goal too. A more skilled player takes more shots. And while that's certainly true, it's important to remember that shots lead to goals, which lead to wins. So you can kind of cut the middleman out there. And that's the key, right? Skilled play leads to wins. If they don't, are they really skilled plays? Right? If your skilled play doesn't get you to win, was it really a skilled play in the first place? Everything leads to the same place in DBD. Killing survivors or the survivors escaping alive. That's what MMR predicts. The chances of the killer killing survivors or them escaping alive. And it is actually very good at doing that. However, we're looking at some improvements to the current system. An example to take is to take team results into account for survivors in addition to the personal results. This takes some time. We have to iterate on. There's lots of fun math, which I could again talk about forever. But we need to prove it out that it's working, that there's value in it, and correlations, so on. More details on that more details on skill-based matchmaking in general are actually in our last dev blog post as well.
So there was a lot there. I will just say his assertion that if you're a skilled player, you will escape or kill more often than you won't. Which I'm kind of softening his statement a little bit when I say that. I will say the current solo survivor experience does not really support that. There are so many examples in solo survivor where like you are the only person on your team that knows what they're doing and you die at the end and the rest of them escape. The Claudette that's like crouching in the corner of the map and didn't do any gens or get into any chases or unhook anybody slips through the cracks and escapes. And you got into a bad chase at the wrong time, the killer managed to get you, you go unhook, the Claudette leaves you to die, they go up in MMR, you go down in MMR. There's stuff like that happens all the time in solo queue MMR. It's not coordinated like a hockey team. You know what I mean? Like he makes a comparison of a hockey team, which they play together, they have team synergy, and that's not something that you have in the solo queue survivor experience. The solo queue survivor experience is like tremendously unfair, which is one of the issues with it. They do address that later in the stream. Thanks. Like when it comes to skill-based matchmaking for killer, getting kills, I can see that being more of an argument than escapes being for survivor, because like I already said, just because you escape as survivor doesn't mean that your skill got you there. It could have been someone else's skill who died in the match. That happens all the time. People leave the MVP on hook and duck out when NOED activates. There's all sorts of factors that come into it. So I really think that the solo queue survivor experience really counters what he's saying there.
Okay. We have a similar question, not directly similar, but pretty close, from Jeff Alip, who asks, why don't hooks count towards your rating?
So this is like the last time they really talk about skill-based matchmaking. And this is something I have wondered too. And again, I don't really like the answer to it, but we'll experience it together.
Yeah, this is a great example of what I was just talking about a minute ago, in a specific case that we did consider and look at and think about quite a bit. The thing with counting hooks is that you end up with weird cases that don't make sense when you take it to its extremes. Say you're a killer who hooked every survivor twice, but none of them died. If you count those hooks towards your rating, then you can easily end up in a situation where that scenario counts as a win. Like
the fact that he thinks that that's ridiculous kind of bewilders me.
Moves you up the standings, but that feels weird. Did you really win?
If you get 8 hooks and 0 kills as killer in this game, I would say that's maybe not a win, but it is definitely not a loss. And I think anyone that's played a lot of killer knows that there have been games where you play against a team of survivors they're really good at rotating. They're really good at like rotating and spreading out the hooks, and then you end up in a situation where everybody's dead hook, nobody's dead, they all leave. And it's very frustrating because you feel like I played really well, but you didn't tell someone out. So I don't know. I get that they go into more detail about it. I'll let them finish.
Should your rating go up and make you face stronger opponents, even though all of the survivors got out alive? Probably not, right? That's like an obvious moment of like, it doesn't really compute. It also doesn't make sense for the survivors. If you call that a killer win, that would mean the survivors lost, but they all got out alive. So that feels weird to call that a loss on the survivor side, unless you start saying that everybody in that situation wins. And then as soon as you can have everybody in a game winning, you get some really weird math, some really crazy stuff starts happening really, really fast. So that's part of why we boil it down to kills and escapes as a proxy for good play in the game. It solves all those problems, and it solves a whole bunch of other ones that I'm just not going to get into now because I think we have like 1 or 2 other questions to get into.
Yeah, one of the trickiest parts of a system like this is that you need to clear win and loss, because if both sides can win, you end up in a situation where ranks just endlessly climb, and then eventually the matchmaking system can't really give you a match because everyone's at like some astronomical rating.
So I understand what they're saying here. They're saying in a situation like the killer gets 8 hooks, no kills, the survivors all escape. They can't have a system where all 4 survivor wins and the killer wins too. Because if that happens a lot, which, I mean, it's not that common of a result, then you do run into a situation where things don't really balance out and everybody's rating goes really high. Eventually, somebody's average MMR goes from like 2,000 to like 8,000. Oh my God. I am a little disturbed that the only options that they're considering here are that it can either be a win or a loss. Because they're thinking about it in terms of kills. They always have. Of like, 4K, 3K, killer win, right? 2K, it's a draw. 1K, it's a loss for the killer. And I would argue that if you get 8 hooks and 0 kills, I would say there's a good argument that could be considered a draw. It doesn't have to be a win to be not a loss. So I'm a little annoyed that there's not enough nuance in the MMR system to account for that. It's like it's either they win or they lose. But I know that they can do a neutral state because they talk about before, like if a survivor gets the hatch, they don't get additional MMR. They get 0. And additionally, like if the killer doesn't kill the person that gets the hatch, they get 0 for that survivor. So I know they can do draws and ties and 0, null states and stuff like that. So, sorry, I had a little burp. So I don't really understand why it's like, we can't have it be a win, so it has to be a loss. I think there's something in between that they could work out.
Okay, so getting into a completely different question, we have a question from Pulsar, who asks, when is 60 FPS coming to Xbox One,
I don't care about this. Okay, will there be a change to the progression? I'm sorry if you're mad at me right now, but you can watch this on their channel.
The next question comes from a lot of different people. Hidden Blade, Lexicat, Jimbo Mason, and
Lexicat, I know them.
They all ask, are there any changes underway for Bloodweb to reduce the grind for perks?
Yeah, I mean, we've known that the grind is a big issue in DBD, and we know it is right now. It's not much fun. It's not much fun. It's a pretty big grind. We're working.
So they're finally talking about the grind. Very interesting.
Working on a way to dramatically improve this, and we'll hopefully have more to say about it soon, but not right now. I know everybody loves that answer.
Yeah. One thing that
now, not a very interesting answer, but I'm glad that this is on their radar.
We've seen people ask is if the grade rewards are like a band-aid solution to that. They're not. We're not looking at that as a solution to the grind. That's just an increase to the grade rewards. Nothing more.
Correct answer. Thank you.
We have a related question from Astrian, who asks, can we please have perk tiers removed?
Now, if you've been to my stream for a while, you know that I'm a big fan of this idea. I'm a big fan of perk tiers being removed. Okay? Let's see what they say.
Good question. Straight up, we've got no plans to remove perk tiers.
Let's hear his reasoning, though.
It is a topic that we talk about internally. It's an idea that gets thrown around, but we have no plans to do it right now.
Yeah, we have something else in mind, but not removing perk tiers.
See, now, if they stopped there, if they said we have something else in mind, I'd be like, okay, well, we'll see what it is. But then they keep going.
2 quick things about perk tiers. Yes, it would cut the grind in 2/3, but the grind grows exponentially every time new content is added. Not only are we adding new perks to unlock, but we're also adding more characters to unlock those perks on. So if we were to do so, it would only be a matter of time before that grind becomes a problem again.
I don't agree with this at all. I don't agree with this at all. Okay, so like, how many perks are in the game? Okay, so 191. Thank you, chat. I appreciate it. Y'all are on the ball. Yes. So 191 perks in the game. Times 3, that's almost 600 for each tier, right? So that's like 600 times, through the Bloodweb. And I'm just going with like just the number right there. You remove perk tiers, it goes down to like 191, right? Now, how many perks need to be added until it's as bad as it is now? 400. He's talking about like a situation where there would be 400 other perks in order for it to be as bad as it is now. I'm sorry, the game's not going to be around that long. It's just not. Okay? So I disagree with this argument. that like, well, if we removed the tiers, there would be new perks and it would be just as bad eventually. I really disagree with that. It's like, I mean, you know, maybe if he elaborated more, I'd be like, oh, I see where you're coming from. But just based on that, I don't get it. Like I said, I think they should have just been like, we have something else in mind, but not that. I would have been perfectly fine with that. But then they're like, here's why we don't want to do perk tiers removed. I'm like, I just don't see it.
The second thing is that it's actually a lot more work to remove the perk tiers than just deleting them.
Okay, see this part, I'm like, okay, I'll take your word for it. You know, you would know more than me, sure.
And so if we're going to spend a bunch of time on a solution, we'd rather spend that time on a permanent solution, not something that's only going to be effective for a little while.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wouldn't say that 400 new perks is a little while, but okay.
Next question we have is from Pixelbush, who asks, can we have some updated killer stats? Justin, can the people have stats?
Get ready, here it comes.
No, Dylan, can they?
Well, I'm going to show them anyway, but yeah.
Yeah, I figure. I don't bother answering.
So there you go.
Hang on, one sec. Can I move? Here, let me just move my camera real quick. Right here on the left, these numbers are kill rate. So this is how many of the survivors per match they kill on average. And this is pick rate, this number. So they're organized by kill rate. Pinhead has the highest kill rate, 58%. 59% actually if you round up. Nurse has the lowest at 49.25. And this is the case every time they show kill rate. Nurse has the lowest kill rate. She's still the strongest killer in the game, and they mentioned this. But it's just like people that, if you're bad with Nurse, you get like a 0K, you know? And if you're strong with Nurse, you get like a 4K, and it averages out to under half. So, interestingly, Pinhead has the highest kill rate. And Bubba's right under it. Freddy also, like, is probably the weakest he's been in a long time. Number 3, though. I will say I am kind of surprised that Trickster is as low as he is. Under 50%. The only one other than Nurse. I feel like Trickster's pretty good now. But if you're wondering what the most popular in terms of pick rate are, Huntress is now the most popular pick at 8%. It hasn't always been that way. But yeah, Huntress at 8%, and then Wraith at 6.24%, just above Artist, and that's just because she's new. All right, and then after that, you've got Trapper, and then Doctor. So the reason why Trapper, Doctor, and Wraith are very popular, by the way, is because they're all free on console. Doctor's free on console, but not on PC, I believe is what's happening. That's what people have told me. So I think that's why Doctor has such a high pick rate. The lowest one is Twins at 1.15%, which I think surprises no one. Weirdly, though, the second least popular is actually Pinhead at 2%. But I don't know, Pinhead is like so unfun to play against as Survivor. I would think that the pick rate would be higher for killers. I'm just going off of, you know, what I've seen on Reddit from killer mains. They all are very angry people. You'd think they'd all be playing Pinhead and running the pink add-on and stuff. Weirdly, Freddy is the third least picked with 2.13%. I thought Freddy would be more popular, but you know, he doesn't have any cosmetics, so maybe that's part of it. Anyway, these are very interesting numbers. Hag next, by the way, 2.16. Good. It does please me actually to see that some of the more fun killers are picked higher than like Freddy and Hag and Pinhead and Twins. Honestly, Twins, Pinhead, Freddy, and Hag are like 4 of the most unfun killers to play against, and they're all at the bottom. I wonder if that kind of means that like maybe more people play both sides than you would think. It's kind of cool. All right, we'll let them talk about it.
These are stats from December 16th to January 16th for all the killers. On the left side, you will see the average kill rates for those killers. And on the right a little bit, you'll see the little black bar with the black numbers. Those are their pick rates, so how often they're used. These are for all ratings. These aren't for like just the high end of players or anything. So just note that there's a lot of nuance to these numbers that isn't necessarily shown in these statistics. Like Nurse, for example, is not the worst killer in the game. Even though she's low, it's just an average. There's a lot of people playing her who probably don't know how to play her too well yet. One interesting thing here is that the Huntress is actually the most popular killer at a whopping 8% pick rate. So there you go.
That is because the Huntress is frankly like, I doubt most people would argue with this. Some people would, but I think Huntress is the most fun killer to play. She's really, really, really fun.
Moving on, we have a question from Epic Warhog, who asks, will we ever see a match replay system where you can rewatch your own matches?
I actually missed the answer to this one, so I'm eager to hear. I'm going to guess the answer is no.
I think it's got to be a kind of a flat no, because as much as we love one, it's an extremely technical undertaking.
Is there any news to share about the Ghostface and Legion updates?
The news is that they're in the pipe and work is underway.
You're going to be hearing this a lot throughout the rest of the stream.
To clarify,
I got a small little surprise to share. It's going to be really small, I promise. So let's just take a look.
Okay, there's no sound here. It's not a bug, by the way. Whoa! It's the Lunar New Year event starting January 25th. Bang, 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 bang.
But there you go. A very short teaser. We have a Lunar New Year event starting on January 25th. Getting right back into things, we have a question from Annie here, who asks, do you plan to add a practice mode against bots to practice killer powers?
So this is something I've been wanting for a long time. A lot of the questions are ones that I've had. Because I would love a practice mode against bots. It would let me like practice things like, just trying stuff out that I wouldn't feel confident just hopping into queue and doing with killers and stuff. So I would love this.
Is this one for me or Pat? I don't think we marked it down.
Whoever wants it.
I can take it.
You can do it, Justin. I believe in you.
So this is something that's actually frequently requested on our wish list as something that we're really looking at. Nothing currently planned, not off the table. Edge of the table? I don't know how you put it.
Yeah, in the periphery. Yeah.
All right. So although it sounds simple, it would be a pretty large amount of work to get this kind of thing working, wouldn't it?
I'll get into my thoughts on this after we hear their answer. Sorry, I keep pausing it.
Yeah. So. Although we do have bots in for the tutorial, obviously that doesn't mean we can just throw them everywhere. There's a lot of things we need to consider. So bots require frequent updates. Whenever you add a new killer power or a new perk, they need to know how to use their powers properly. Survivor bots need to know how to respond to those properly. Same for any perk. They need to know how this perk should react, how the AI should be using it properly. So again, it's not impossible, not something we've written off. There's some other priorities that we're working on, but this is something that is not off the table, just the edge.
Yeah.
No. I'm sorry. I've been very deferential so far of just like, all right, I'll take your word for it. No, they already have a practice mode, the tutorial. They just added it. Like a few months ago. You can play Trapper against Survivor bots, and you can play Survivor against a Trapper bot and other survivors. The bots are absolutely awful, but all they need to do is just let me, instead of like when I pick killer in a practice mode in the tutorial, instead of just forcing me to play Trapper, just let me pick anyone. Just let me pick any killer and then just go into the tutorial. All I need is a map and moving targets. That's all anyone wants. They just want the map and the moving targets in the tutorial. The survivors are awful, but they move around, and that's all you need. If you want to practice Huntress, you can load into the tutorial and they'll move around. Will they be gods? No. They'll just be moving and you can get used to your power. That's all people want. They don't want to simulate an actual match against survivors that are like, oh, they're playing Huntress, so I'm going to duck right when they... We don't want that, actually. We don't want to play killer in a tutorial against bots and they're gods. So they don't need to know how Huntress's hatchets work or how Nurse's teleport work. Or how Oni's Demon Dash works, or Hillbilly's Chainsaw. They don't need to know. They can just be the same bots that they are now. Exactly the same. But you can just play a different killer. That's it. You don't even need to have a different map. You can have it be on, what is it, Ironworks? Coal Tower? I think it's Ironworks in the tutorial. You can just be that map forever. DBD Mobile already has this. DBD Mobile has had this for a while now. I don't see the big problem, I guess. So I don't really understand the holdup. It's like they want it to be perfect, but it's not going to be perfect. Even if they're they put a ton of effort into the survivor AI is like, doing, they've got like a calculator in their brain, and they're just like, all right, so the huntress threw a hatchet at me, and based on the current trajectory, I need to duck into a locker to avoid it. Even if they have like these god mode survivors and stuff, they're still gonna suck. I'm sorry, but it's true. They're still gonna suck. I would still load in, and I would 4K every time at like 5 gens. Okay, I have no doubt. So I don't think they need to worry about that. Just let us be able to load into the tutorial with different killers other than Trapper. And I think they should allow us to load in as a survivor with our own build, and we could just play against Trapper. I mean, I don't think they need to worry about that part. They don't need to be like, oh, you could play against Nurse. No, because I understand that. Like, making a Nurse AI, making a Huntress AI, that would be too much. But I think they could easily add what I'm talking about. Easily.
You can imagine, like, if the bot doesn't know how to play against the pig, for example, you put a reverse bear trap on their head, and they just don't know how to take it off. So you put a bear trap on them, and they die. They'll never get out of it. So it's something that we have to, like...
But why would that matter? You're in a match against bots. It's not supposed to be like a fair... It's not supposed to be like an actual match. It's just supposed to be like a funny little thing where you can practice. That's it.
Build to support every single...
Yeah. If he dies, he dies. That's my attitude towards it.
Killer, and that's a lot more work than it seems at a glance. Similar question, also about bots from...
So I really don't understand that's like the one thing from the Q&A that I really don't get.
Fantasy,
I really don't get the answer to
asks,
that.
When a survivor disconnects, can a bot replace them?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's one that's been asked to me personally, internally, many times. Our stance on this is that Dead by Daylight is inherently a multiplayer game, and the human element of that is core to the experience. Bots are a great tool for teaching, they're great for practicing against, but they will never compete on the same level as a real human being.
Are you sure about that? Are you sure about that? Sorry, I had to get that in there.
So to that end, we have no plans to replace disconnected players with bots.
Yeah. One of the things about bots is that they sound really great on paper, but then that kind of turns when you're on the hook and they're just slowly sneaking towards you, and then they get caught and they start feeding into the killer's pop goes the weasel or pain resonance or something. Then it becomes very frustrating very quickly.
I understand what they're saying here. However, it beats nothing. If I load into a match and I'm on a gen and then somebody just DCs at 5 gens, I would rather a bot join than it just be instantly a 3v1. I will take me being on hook and a bot urban evading towards me while I inch ever closer to death than just nothing. So that's my take on that.
Question from Tufal.
Also, I'm pretty sure DBD Mobile has bot replacements for survivors that disconnect, don't they? No, DBD Mobile has that. Why does DBD Mobile have a lot of this stuff that they're saying that they can't put in the main game, or they're not going to? I don't get that. I know they're two different like teams, but still, it's weird, right? It's weird.
Who asks, will Year 7 focus more on game health instead of new content?
So short answer for that is we are continuously working on both.
Okay, this is a really boring answer. I saw this one live. It's basically just like, and a lot. Okay, a lot of the. I'm just gonna go ahead. Trust me, I'm doing you a favor. I'm gonna skip a lot of these questions because most of the answers are like, we are aware of that and we're thinking about it and no plans right now, but soon. So I'm just going to go ahead and scrub through until there's one that I remember being interesting. Can survivor spawn in hex locations be improved?
Yeah, we're always looking at improvements to our procedural generation system, something we tweak fairly regularly. They're quite hard to do, though, and they're really hard to test, right? Something happens in, 1 out of every 500 games. It's tricky for us to reproduce it, to figure out the right way to do it. So, yeah, given the nature of the system, those things are slow and a little more difficult to do, but we are always looking at them.
Yeah, there's also a catch here in that if you start adding a bunch of rules for where survivors can't spawn, like if you say you can't spawn near a hex totem, that immediately rules out a big part of the map. And that can create other issues where maybe instead of spawning next to a hex, you spawn right beside the killer. The other thing is that it kind of has a knock-on effect that if I know I didn't spawn near a totem and my teammate over there didn't spawn next to a totem, that immediately rules that area out, and I know I don't have to check that to find the totem, so it could even make it a little easier sometimes. So it's tricky. We also try to hide those totems better when we update maps. That helps a lot.
So I totally understand the answer here, and I pretty much agree, because I mean he's right. If they if they're like the hex can't be next to a survivor spawn and like say some sort of shroud shenanigans happen, or you're in a swift on comms and you know where everybody spawns, then you know exactly where the hex cannot be, if you play this game a lot. So I understand the answer to this
here.
So basically just
cheaters suck. Right? Cheaters suck. We all dislike cheaters.
Okay, so they're asking for an acknowledgement on the cheaters. I just skipped the last one because they basically are just like anniversary event. Yeah.
You guys all hate them. I hate cheaters.
How can you be so brave?
I know,
so brave.
right? Yeah, something so controversial yet so brave. But like, yeah, the thing is, the nature of cheats, hacking, right? That's where most of these cheats come from. That puts us in a bit of a bind as game developers. Anytime you talk about cheating or anti-cheating, you're providing information to the enemy. If you say you've prevented cheating in a certain way or around a certain mechanic, it's like a flare goes up. The cheating community responds by focusing on that specific thing, really looking at it hard and finding new ways to break the stuff that you've put in, finding new ways to cheat. It's an arms race, right? So please understand that when we are remaining silent about cheating, it's often happening in order to break this cycle, right? In general, we're constantly making small changes and tweaks and improvements under the hood to fight back on cheating. We just don't talk about it for all of those reasons.
Yeah, in this upcoming release, we have some changes going in to fix that as well, or fix a couple instances. The reason why we don't go into specifics in the patch notes is because, again, we don't want to, put a target on like, this is what we fixed, go break it again. Follow-up question.
Okay, so just real quick. It's the question is, can we get an acknowledgement on the cheater issue? And the answer was more about the question like, what specifically are you doing to address cheaters? It wasn't what the question was. So I don't think anybody's looking for them to be like, specifically what we're doing to fix the cheating problem is we're going to put a limit on this mechanic. We're going to have an internal like check for this type of thing. Like nobody's expecting that. I think this person just wanted there to be an acknowledgement, kind of like with the DDoS issue, just an acknowledgement, just to say like, we're aware of the issue, we're working on it. So like, and they say that, but I just think all the other stuff is unnecessary of like, well, we're not going to say anything because we don't want them to know exactly what our solution is going to be. Well, you're not going to tell us what your solution is going to be. So I don't really understand that. Okay, the answer to this is they're not going to slow down gens. I'll just tell you that. The answer is not that interesting. And it's pretty obvious. I don't think gens need to be slowed down. And they've said that for a long time that they want to have like the least amount of time that survivors are spent just holding down M1 on a gen like as possible. They don't want to increase that. So asking them to slow down gens, it's just going to increase M1 time, and they don't want that. They've been very clear about that. They don't want that, and frankly, I don't want that either. So I don't see a problem with the answer to this.
Shrimpy asks, can we get a little more info on those survivor solo queue improvements?
So this is something that they did preview in the recent patch, or I think in a tweet, I can't remember where I saw it, that they were testing putting survivor icons up on the sidebar so that you know what your teammates are up to, which is a great suggestion. It's one that's been around for some time, and they actually, if they follow through with it, I will be so happy. It's such a good improvement. But they talk about a little bit about it here.
I'm gonna have to give everybody's favorite answer in there. We don't have much to reveal about that right now. It's again very early in the design process.
Yeah, it's very early, and they said that before.
How we're gonna do it. However, this time I'd very much like to encourage everybody to keep making posts on the forums about what you'd like to see in terms of solo queue improvements as a survivor. We really do read them. I read them. Dylan reads them. Everybody reads them. The whole team reads them, right? But
on Reddit?
Justin reads them. There's names of other designers on the team I can't remember. Everybody reads the damn things. So please do keep leaving them. They're great. They're
it's about like the Dev by Daylight forums.
What kind of things solo queue survivors are looking at getting to improve their
the DBD experience. Forums.
Yeah, this is probably like one of the earliest times we've ever shown something like this off. I just really quickly want to shout out 99th Cloud from Reddit, who made an amazing mock-up. I'll put it on screen right now.
This is awesome, by the way. This is really cool. Now this is a fan-made concept, and they show here. But the fact that Peanuts is showing it on stream is very promising.
Of how that could look. And there are some great discussions about this. Please keep them coming. They're amazing.
So this is actually really cool, and this is exactly like what I always had in mind, and it's nice to see it like visualized. Like whenever I've suggested this, working on a generator, there's a little generator icon. Healing on the side of mending or being healed, there's a little, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Predator, Carl Weathers thing there. Opening an exit gate, there's a little exit gate icon. Cleansing adult totem, cleansing a hex totem, blessing a totem, opening a chest, hiding in a locker. Now, personally, I think that's really all you need to have. I think just that right there, like working on a generator through hiding in a locker, I think that's fine. But they did add some other ones. Like there's the I believe it's the "This is not happening" icon there. I'm not sure why that one, but it says interacting with the killer's power, e.g. disarming a bear trap, cleansing from a fountain, searching a jigsaw box. I understand why this would be good, but I don't know if I want to see like an icon there all the time. Like if you're disarming a bear trap, I don't really need to know that. If you're cleansing from a fountain, I don't really need to know that because I'm gonna find out because I'm gonna hear burn and I'm gonna see that you healed up anyway. If you disarm a bear trap, I'm gonna see it come off. Because the timer will be ticking down or whatever. I don't really think that this needs to be an icon, but that's nitpicking, right? It's a good idea. The survivor's being chased. There's a little sprint burst icon. Cool. Let's see. There's a little exit gate thing. The survivor's in the exit area. And then there's an interesting little icon here. The killer has been within close proximity to the hook survivor for some time. Now, if they just made Kindred base kit, which I'm a big fan of that idea, they would need to do something like this, but it is an interesting anti-camping icon. However, I'm sure there will be killers that will figure out what close proximity means and will stand just on the edge of it if they want to face camp. But whatever. Crows. The survivor has crows AFK. I think that's actually a pretty cool icon. So yeah, this is really neat overall, and I'm glad that they showed it on stream. It shows that they like it and they like the overall detail and vibe behind it. And I think this would greatly increase the solo experience to know that if somebody's on hook and then I'm kind of maybe I'm doing a gen and I look and I'm like, oh, the other two people are also doing gens, then I know that I can go for the save, right? So it's just little things like that so that your friend doesn't, or your solo queue teammate doesn't go to second stage. That could be huge. So I'm really glad they're looking into this. It's really good news.
Yeah, I think one thing, just to kind of jump on there, one thing that's really great, it's nice to hear how you guys talk about what would be great for the survivor experience, but what killers think about it as well is also very important. So
No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not.
We're following those discussions very closely, and it's great to see everyone passionately talking about it, because when we do it, we want to do it right.
No. What killers think about icons that only survivors see that help them communicate, personally, I think doesn't matter at all. I don't really understand. I don't really care what killers think about that. It would only help solo queue. It would not help Swift. Killers are always complaining about Swift. This is something to make solo more aligned with Swift. Killers should be in full support of this, because the closer that they bring solo queue and Swift, the better that balancing is going to be for survivors. Because right now, I think we can all agree you have a distinct advantage in Swift over solo queue most of the time. It depends on your teammates and stuff, but just in terms of communication, it's a big difference. So all they're doing with this is they're closing that gap, and that's going to benefit everyone. Everyone. There's no reason for killers to be against this at all.
The next question comes from Jemalaski, who asks, can you let us know which maps have the most escapes and kills?
Now,
Thanks.
I'm interested to see y'all's reaction to this.
Not Patrick. Justin, can the people have more stats?
Again,
I'm showing them anyway.
I guess.
Yeah, so the Killingus map is surprising. Midwich Elementary School.
The Killingest map is surprising.
Did we... Killingest? Okay.
It's not a word. I made it up for this.
I feel like that's a word.
If it's not, it is now.
I mean, survivingest, yeah, I accept that one.
Yeah, it's about 50%. So if you're going to 1v1 someone, 1v1 them at Cowshed.
Okay, so we got the 1v1 Cowshed meme in there. Nice, I see it. I'm a little disturbed that Midwich being the Killingest map was considered surprising. Midwich has been, like, I would say top 3 killer maps in the game since release. Every time I'm on Midwich as killer, I'm happy, unless I'm playing, like, Hillbilly or something, which is never. Because I'm like, this is a very killer-sided map. Whenever I'm on Midwich as Survivor, I'm not happy, frankly. Like, it's a pretty map. I like it. It looks really nice, but it's a very killer-sided map, and it's been this way for a long time. There's nothing wrong with it, but I'm just a little disturbed that it was surprising. I will say, Fractured Cowshed being the lowest kill rate map, I'm a little surprised by it because I figured it would be Haddonfield. And if not Haddonfield, then maybe like RPD, frankly. But well, RPD is kind of controversial because I think a lot of people just don't know how to play it, and a lot of survivors give up on RPD, so maybe not. But just I wasn't really surprised by Fractured Cowshed because it is a very survivor-sided map. But I guess I'm more surprised that it's not Haddonfield, you know?
What is the killer and survivor player distribution? They say that queue times for survivor for them seem shorter during the day than they do at night.
That doesn't surprise me. Internally, we call this sort of concept the role ratio, right? It's the ratio between killer and survivors who are in the queue at any given time.
We're learning
in a perfect
terms,
world,
y'all.
You want that to be 4 to 1.
Learning terminology.
So survivors to killers, right? So 4 survivors for every killer. That would make it really great. But the truth is that that ratio, that value, fluctuates throughout the day. It shifts based on tons of different factors. The time of day, seeing it queue time shift from daytime to nighttime. That's a really big one. Region, different areas of the world see their shifts happen in different ways. The platform, Xbox versus PlayStation versus PC. There's a lot of stuff. The day of the week, right? Weekends, there's no school. A lot more people playing the game.
Right.
Even seasonally, right? You see a lot more players showing up during the summer months. Again,
okay, so it changes.
Like that Christmas break, right? Often has a lot more players showing up.
It changes.
So I can't actually give you any specific answer on this.
I'm just a little frustrated because it's like, well, if you know about all these changes, then surely you can give like a ballpark range. Like it goes from, 5 to 1 to as high as like 12 to 1. Just a range.
This about what the player distribution is, because in terms of how it affects matchmaking, by the time I finish the sentence, it will be wrong. So,
well, we're not looking for like the exact, like specific right answer, just ballpark, bro.
It's just one of those things about making an asymmetric game like this.
Yeah. So if queue times seem different at different times of the day to you, you're not crazy. It's probably true. Next question we have comes from the Tarnavsky, who asks, will SBMM ratings be visible?
Not anytime soon. Having a visible MMR is something that will absolutely lead to a lot of toxic elitism, and we don't want to encourage that kind of mentality in the community.
I understand where he's coming from with this, but I just feel like it's a weird line in the sand to draw. They're fine with MMR being completely based around kills and escapes, which encourages like tunneling and camping. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? It just feels like it's a little weird. It's like, but so you think this, but then you also think this. Weird.
What we do want is to have a way for our more competitively minded gamers to get feedback on their standing within the game, something a little bit more meaningful than the current grade system is. And we want to do that eventually. As with many other things, it's not at the top of our list at the moment, but it is something that is being worked on.
That makes sense.
Yeah, we also have to acknowledge that there's some people out there who don't want to see that number. Some people get stressed out when they have a bad match and they see that go down, and it just really upsets them. So there's two sides to it. I don't think anyone's really wrong, but we got to keep both sides in mind there.
So the easy solution to this is make it a toggle. You can toggle your MMR on or off. You can just be like, oh, I don't want to see it. I turn it off. Or if you do want to see it, you can turn it on. So right here, they're talking about the Realm Beyond. If you're not sure what that is, I don't blame you. It's something they announced on the 4th anniversary where they were redoing the maps and stuff. And it's kind of come to a halt, they basically say no is the answer to this, because there are some maps that haven't been redone, like Red Forest, Swamp. Haddonfield rework is, I believe, what they're working on right now, but they basically just say no, from what I remember, and I could be wrong. Let's see. Can we get a search bar for perks? This is a very disappointing answer. Let's experience the disappointment together.
Without going to specifics.
Next question comes from Big Chap Alien, who asks, can we get a search bar for perks?
Actually, it's not that disappointing. They basically say no, but that they have something else in mind.
Without going to specifics, we've been looking at the flow of equipping perks, and we've got a few improvements that will be coming out soon, like sooner than my usual soons that I've been giving. I don't have the exact dates on hand, so I can't give you any promises, but those ones are coming very, very soon. That'll make things easier for all players, both PC and console players, for equipping perks and just generally cleaning up that flow. I don't have anything more to say about it right now. I'm hoping I can have some stuff to show you guys about it in the near future, actually demonstrations or examples of it. But right now, just know that we're cleaning up the perk equipping flow to make things better for you.
So I love that answer, honestly. The search bar was just one idea. So if they're not doing that, but they are looking at a way to really make equipping perks a lot easier, because, frankly, there's 7 pages of them per roll now, and it's really annoying. Do you plan to increase the 1 million BP cap? I can't remember what they said about this.
So, man, we've really been thinking about this one recently, because we hear this a lot. So we've been trying to think what value the cap is actually bringing us at this point.
The answer is nothing.
For now, I can really only say that blood points, any blood points you get from promo codes, login gifts, the season grade rewards will never count towards this cap and always let you surpass it until you... I think we mentioned this earlier as well. As soon as you do surpass it with one of those, you do have to drop back down before you can naturally gain BP. But if you wanted to surpass it and keep on using promo codes, those would keep on piling up.
For sure.
That's not the question. Ugh.
We used to be really dead set against removing the cap, but I think it's open discussion now, especially now that we're giving up to 2 million points a month. Maybe the time has come, You never know.
I would say if we're always giving these what we call bonus blood points that surpass the cap, why have a cap at all? So that's why the discussion is kind of coming back up again of why not?
See, the question of why not is what I think people wanted you to answer, and it wasn't answered. So that's a little frustrating, because in my mind, I'm like, the 1 million blood point cap isn't doing anything. And he brought that up in a question form of what is the 1 million blood point cap doing for us? And I said nothing, and he didn't answer his own question. And so I'm very unclear as to the internal reason to keep it. And so he talked about how, you can go over it with codes. Well, we already knew that. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just don't understand the answer to that question.
Would the Endgame Collapse system be reworked somehow? It's easy to control from the survivor side by leaving the gates almost powered, so the survivors don't feel any oppression from it.
So I think this is a good question. And I'm very against the 99 meta. I think it's really boring. You get the gens done, you go and 99 the exit gates, and if somebody's on hook, then you have full freedom and you're able to just get them off the hook and escape, buy block and escape, right? More times than not. So I don't like the 99 meta, and I think that an elegant solution to this would be to have exit gates slowly regress. Not super quickly, slowly regress. And I'm interested to see. I think I actually had to go eat during this question, so I didn't see their answer.
It's a good question. The Endgame Collapse isn't supposed to really be oppressive. It exists to prevent stalemate scenarios. So before the Endgame Collapse was in DVD, there were lots of situations and lots of times where the game would kind of end in a stalemate. The survivors would be hidden, and the killer would be in a perfect defensive position, standing over the hatch or something like that, and no one would really move, right? There's to no one's benefit to move around, so you'd end up in this gross stalemate kind of situation. The EGC adds a time pressure, right? It forces one side, in this case the survivors, to make a play and to make decisions and to do something where previously they would just hold still indefinitely. So this just keeps the game moving towards an inevitable conclusion. So with that in mind, the Endgame Collapse works great. It does that thing, and we have no plans to change it.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, and if you ever do want the survivors to be up against the clock, you can open it yourself, and that'll start the clock and let you use Blood Warden, for example.
Well, yeah, but then the exit gate's open. All right, whatever. Okay, so we all got to enjoy that together, and yeah, that's basically it. Lots to unpack there. I think a lot of disappointing lot of disappointing question or lots of disappointing answers.
Thanks.
For me, a lot of the stuff that was brought up are stuff that I'm 100% for. I'm 100% for perk tiers being removed. I'm 100% for, you know, a lot of the stuff that they were basically like, no plans to do that. The icon idea, I'm very excited for. I'm very excited for the icon idea. I was very disappointed in their answers about skill-based matchmaking, particularly defending that it's fine that it's completely about kills and escapes. Because I don't agree with that at all. And I was a little disturbed by how certain they were that kills and escapes were the way to do skill-based matchmaking. We'll forget about all of that by the time the new chapter comes out.